Time to build up the engine assemblies. What I'm going to be using is a Reskit air intake set and the Wolfpack, well, parts of it, the exhaust sets. The reason I'm using those is because we'll just look at the Reskit first, so that you've got this beautiful little, I'll just tighten up. You've got these almost one piece. There's just that piece, and then this one, the inlet, which has got all that lovely raised rivet detail, which just slots onto the back there. So I just need to cut off those two stubs on those. So that's why I'm using those instead of these plastic pieces, which you know, there's actually quite a few. And then the Edward set is actually multiple bending. You have to eliminate all the raised detail. Here we go on these pieces. Eliminate all these have to be, you know, glued together, and hopefully you get one straight curve. Then you eliminate all that detail, then you add in photo etch, and it just doesn't make any sense. Whereas these Reskit ones, you know, bingo bongo, as Harry would say, all done in one. So that's that reason. And then the other reason to use the Wolfpack is you've got two-piece, you know, with seams, exhausts, and with nice ejection pin marks in the middle, versus one piece. Okay, so there's the long one, and then there's the two short ones for the side engines. All I have to do is just cut them off their mounts, give them a bit of wash, got a bit of resin residue on them, and paint, prime, and get them together. So let's get stuck into it. Well, I've primed up the fan inlet, what do you call it, on the exhausts there, and I've done the Wolfpack resin exhaust. I've just primed them in Mr. Surfacer 500, and I've also got a ring in, just a piece of pipe here to do a bit of experimentation, because what I've worked out is the long exhaust one here that comes out of the body, it's pretty shiny. So I'm going to hit it with anodized aluminium to start with, or maybe seconds. That's why I'm going to use the piece of pipe there, the plastic pipe, to experiment. I might actually go with even a shiny one, maybe duralinium. Whereas these two have more of a copper base to them if you look at the reference photos. So I'm going to mix, although this metallic flake in excuse me, in the Tamiya copper is a bit too much, so I'm going to dull it down a little bit with the wooden deck tan, because that's a sort of, I'm looking at the reference photo over my shoulder there, it's sort of that more yellowish brown sort of thing. I might even use some chipping fluids. I'm just going to do some experimentation, so hold on a second. So the anodized aluminium worked fairly well on the long exhaust. I'm pretty happy with that. I might hit some of those highlights in there with another shiny metal, because it's a slight little bit of dullness, and the reference photo shows some more shiny bits on the top. That's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. I've done the same with these fans, the Academy ones, but I have hit them with that mix. I don't know if that's a bit overexposed, with that wooden deck tan and the copper mix, which actually came out more wooden deck tan than anything else. So it's not working too well. Here's the, as you can see, I did one side, the other side's still shiny of my little practice pipe, and yeah, you're getting almost no copper flake in there. So what I did is I appreciated the areas where, on the reference photos, particularly on the inside of the exhausts, where it does get that dull sort of colour, the decky, tanny sort of colour, and around those rings. So I've done that, and I'm now going to try a full-on copper one. So let me just get the airbrush ready. So I'll try it on my practice piece first. This is just straight Tamiya copper. What I might have to do is just put this down, give it a really good matte coat so it's not too shiny, but at least you can tell it's metallic. And I have to mask this anyway, because the way the construction is designed, I can't really leave it unpainted. Yeah, it's not too bad. It's a little bit too shiny, but let's go for the real thing. It's actually acting a bit better, because I've forgotten I haven't actually got an aluminium base on this. It's just a straight black Mr. Surfacer, so it's coming out a nice darker, richer colour. Just got to remember to use very light coats, because there's just, I have diluted this, but there's a lot of metallic fleck in this Tamiya paint. This is the old, I can't remember the number, let's have a look at it, X31 I think. No, XF6, it's supposed to be a flat but it comes out a bit shiny. Actually I'm pretty happy with that. And this is the first thing I've painted on the whole chopper. The rest, I've only just done primer before. I've never painted anything, so here we go. I might add a bit more there. And what I can do is after it's constructed, I can hit it with pigments and maybe oils just to make it even more pronounced. But I like that effect. Might give it a bit more, but I think I'll leave it at that. Alright, I think I've got everything ready for assembly, but I've come across one small problem with the Reskit, well two actually. There's missing a fair bit of detail here, and yeah, I found out that, well, two of them are fine as is with those humps, although they don't exactly fit. I'll see if I can quickly shove one of these together. No, that's the wrong one. Okay, let's put the Academy parts together. So that's where the exhaust comes, that's the air intake, and you'll see almost straight away that yeah, the fit's not too bad, but it's a bit of a step in there that's sort of hidden. It's good enough, okay. But the problem is against the fuselage, where the third engine is buried in the fuselage here, and that's where that long exhaust goes. I've already stored that away because I have to install it here after I do all the stress skinning of this thing. Well, this inlet is supposed to go up against this hump here, which sort of replicates what's on those external engines. But if I do this, you can see the problem. That semicircle, that semi-sphere, that's not supposed to be there. And Academy, I don't have the plastic here, but the Academy one, they actually do two proper ones and a third plate here, which is flush. So I'm going to have to get out my saw again, so that has to come into that semicircle and just cut that off. Now the fit of these wasn't the best. I spoke to my mate Mick Drover, and he said, because you know you got to put two flat surfaces together, and I've had to do a lot of seam cleanup and filling, and just the way they've done it, it's just, you know, they've got these little notches, but they didn't really work that well. So I'm not very happy with that. But it's time to assemble the external engine. So I'll just give you a rundown what I've done here. I've actually enlarged this scoop here and made it, just filled it in on the inside there, so there's actually something physically there behind it, and just blacken it out. And the other thing I've done is where the exhaust come out, because I'm going to have to install these painted, and then I'm going to mask them with some liquid mask. I want this area to be all well, it won't be in the final color, but at least it's blacked out in primer, so I can easily hopefully paint around them when they're in there. So I just need to install the fans to the exhausts and glue these together, and I can get going, do some seam cleanup. And then the next step is, and of course, oh, here they are. Camera, you can get there. I need to put some rivets on, so let's go. So I've assembled the engine nacelles, the external ones, and I've cleaned up the major seams. The fit was pretty good, but I just wanted to be sure that there were no major seams in them. And I've also modified that last just by cutting off that semicircle. That's the air inlet that's going to go to the side of the fuselage. So I'll put that aside for now and concentrate on these two. So what I'm going to do before I glue these air inlets on, and the fit's not the best, I must admit. I've seen another chap's build, and yeah, it is slightly out a little bit there. It's not, you can see it's not flush with the Academy plastic, but this is a case of good enough is close enough. But having said that, there is one thing I want to do, and that's, there's a vertical panel line going all the way across, and I think this is supposed to be like a piano hinge. I'll have to check the reference photos. They've got two scribed lines running down the top here. So what these are obviously big access panels, okay, and there's actually some latches, indents missing down the bottom there. What I'm going to do is this very, very faint panel line, I'm going to use my Tamiya, because it's nice and thick, panel scrub, and I'm going to make that a real definite panel line. So once I've done that and I've glued these inlets on, then I can get to priming. And the reason I'm going to prime, well, and then also have to mask these exhausts. The reason I'm going to get to priming is because of these. These are the parts for the sponsons. The sponsons are the large dangly bits off the side of the aircraft. Now I built these about 2 years ago, and last night I went through them all and found there was a heck of a lot of go seams there, so I've had to use the black super glue. So I checked it with the primer first, and yeah, there's quite a few go seams. These are the fuel tanks that hang underneath these sponsons. Okay, they go off the side, and you got the landing gear in there. That's the Edward landing gear. This one needs a bit of a trim. It didn't quite get in there, so I'll just get the file out. And so I've added the Edward external photo etch, which does a really good job of replicating the raised rivets and everything else. But it's completely naked, just like the tail. So this has to have added rivets. And then these parts, these little hangers on that have the navigation lights, and this is where the actual fuel tank's attached to. And you can see the fit's really, really good. Let me just see if I can dry fit that in now. Yep. Okay, so that goes in there like that. It's really, really well fit. So what I'm going to do is, well, before I do this one, I've already done on this one. You can see I've added a resin piece. So this is for the, I can't remember what they're for. There's some sort of sensor or infrared something or other thingy that clicks on the side. It's famous last words. Click in there like that. It's a very good fit, but it just won't sit there. So I've got to put these sensors on. Now I'm not going to do them right now because I've got to create, they don't give you the parts, just a couple of pieces of 0.7mm styrene rod to triangulate them. I've just got to install this mount into this one here. Just got to carve away a bit of plastic, put that in. So once I've done that and those two mounts are in, but I'm not going to install the sensors, then I'll glue these side pieces on, and then we'll go to town. We'll prime it all up and then rivet it. With the fuel tanks, however, slightly different approach. There's no more rivets on these. What they are, I'll see if I can remember to put a reference photo up. There's some sort of fiberglass sort of, or I don't know what sort of composite materials they use. But what they do is they've obviously got a crisscross pattern. You can see them on quite a few of the photos. So I'm going to try to replicate that by putting down very thin lines of masking tape and doing successive layers of primer. So you put down, you do one run running diagonally, and then take that off, mask off another run going that way, and then so you get like an overlay of these diagonal fiberglass strips. That's all the way I can think of how to do that. So I'll give it a go. I've spent an inordinate amount of time realizing that these Reskit air inlets aren't actually really any good at all, and I should have just stuck with the Academy parts, added some extra detail using some Archer rivets, or even just adding them myself, because there's just a litany of problem with these Reskit ones. First of all, as is, they do not fit properly onto the engine nacelles. The intake covers, I've had to do a little bit of, I tried a little bit of filling here with some 0.25 styrene sheet, and then of course I noticed that this becomes too small, this gap here, so I've been practicing, probably not doing, trying to get it to match up to this hemispherical hump here, and then I went from there to realise, oh hang on, I noticed that one of the Academy ones doesn't have a hump on it, and that's because that's the one for the main engine housing for the third engine, which is on the fuselage piece. So this one, so I haven't added the covers there, so don't worry about that. Okay, that clicks in there beautifully, beautiful fit, looks lovely, has the right contours and everything. And then I noticed when I tried to put one of these on, of course, there's that big hump there that they've molded in, and so yeah, I've had to remove it off this one and completely remove it, sand it all back, and then I realised, oh hang on, it doesn't actually fit that hump as well, and it's not the right length. These inlets are too short, they're too small, they're too fat around this side, but they've left off this contour here. So I had to add in a nice big piece of styrene and reshape that completely, removing a fair bit of detail too, by the way. And I have to add it back some latches, and they're very, very careful. It took me about a night or so of just getting that to fare in properly. And I thought, okay, that's the end of my troubles, but no, I'm pretty much going to have to do that with these two as well, because these, as is, here's the one I haven't really done much to. I've started on the other one. They don't go over this one because the lip there, it closes in too close to the fire extinguisher exit thing there. It's supposed to be back here, okay? So another good 2mm actually. It's supposed to be out this way. So what I'm going to have to do is the same with this one. And then I realised, well, once I've done that, this hump is actually the wrong shape. Okay, if you look at the way Academy have done it, it's more of an elliptical shape. And then finally, if you look at here, Academy have rightly added these little inlet bumps. I forget the names of them. I'm sure you'll correct me what they're called. But on the Reskit ones, in fact, I've had to sand them back because I've got another plan. They only do this first little layer here, so I'm going to have to, you know, apply the Edward sheets, which aren't perfect, but at least they've got extra detail there. So, long story short, at the start of this, I said, you know, I should have just compare the Academy with the Edward. There's really no point. What I should have done was just build the Academy ones, add the little bit of rivet detail in here on the inlet side, and then of course there's a couple of row of rivets missing here, and maybe just add a small little bit of rod here for this little flap, and that's it. I don't know how many countless hours I've spent on the bench, and I reckon I'm only halfway through. I'm gonna have to cut these off on the remaining two, blend in some plastic, spend a while sanding, getting it in there, you know, and then I can actually finally get to a stage of actually detailing up these. Now the other thing I found, because of this fantastic book, if you've seen the review that I posted, this is an amazing book from Cavu Publications. There are two types of inlet covers, and he covers the, oh, I should have got the page open, but I believe that one is the older style one. Okay, the latches are slightly different, whereas the new one, I should have got this open to the right page. So that's the new one. You can see it's got these much bigger sort of type of latches. They're yeah, and they've also got this double row of rivets around at the inlet, at the outlet, so near the exhaust pipe. There's another picture of it in there. So they're a different type, it's like a gated sort of latch, instead of these. Here we go, nice big. Okay, so yeah, I might not use that one, use the originals, because that's a lot easier to do. So let me get to it. But anyway, I finished the sponsons are done. They're all fed in, glued that in. That's ready for primer, and I can actually start riveting them. So let's just keep going. Well, that wasn't quite a long, windy walk down a dusty road to a cafe that wasn't closed, but we're close enough. I've got to this stage, and I'm going to wrap it up here because of several reasons. First, let me just get onto the sponsons. So what I've done is, as you can see, I haven't primed or riveted them because I realise I might have to go on a diet with my rivets. I've only got to select the number of Archer rivets, and they've gone out of production, so I need to get the fuselage done first before I start adding some more here. I mean, I do need to add quite a few. I've added and I've remembered the name of it and I've forgotten it now. Let me just have a quick look at my reference book, which I'm falling in love with. It's just off camera here. Just go get a smoke or something while I go forward. It's right here. I had the page open. I'm still talking. Oh, here we go. What's it called? No, that's the EAPS is the, here we go. It's the DIRCM, the, yeah, infrared thingy. Okay, so I've actually put it on, and my neighbours decided to do some angle grinding. And I've made some struts and supports there. So, and I've drilled out the fuel tank relief valve, I guess you could call it there, a catheter of sorts, which I know all too well about. Thank dog below, that's gone. Okay, so I've done both of those. They're ready for primer. I'll put aside, and yeah, they don't need any more detailing up apart from those rivets. Now with the fuel tanks, again, it came up a problem here going with, you know, do you go Edward photo etch or you go the Academy pieces? Now for some reason I lost 3 of these little wings that come off the fuel tanks, and the Academy ones are pretty good. I mean, they fit in perfectly, the fit's perfect, but they're a little bit thick. Probably just see that there. Okay, but yeah, what I should have done, because I don't know where they went, I lost the other 3. I put the Edward ones on, I thought, nah, that's not good enough, so I made my own out of some sheet styrene. They're bit more scale thickness. I've decided to blend them in a little bit just to give them a bit of shape, but again, I should have just used the Academy pieces and just thinned them down. So yeah, you don't need the Edward ones for those ones. The fuel tanks, again, I need to make them, I believe they're made out of carbon fibre or fiberglass, so I need to do that pattern with those, so that's in the painting stages. I'll do that. But the coup de grace, and I'll just zoom in here and hopefully my neighbour will shut up in a minute. This is where I come to the realisation that I'm not going for 100% authenticity, I'm going for extra detail that looks kind of good, because I just can't do it. I'm okay. I'm not a bad modeler. I'm not a mediocre one either, but I'm not the best at like some of these other detailers. I've done the best I can. These Reskit things I do not recommend at all. Don't even bother with them. They're just not worth it. Just use the Academy parts with some Edward additions. So I've added hinges to this gearbox. I think that's the gear shaft that goes off the engine to the rotor. I've added that. I've put mesh inside the inlets there. Just use some spare, I think it was from a tank kit. Got rivets, fasteners down the bottom there, some latches, and these blasted Reskit things. I've fed them in as best I can. They're good enough. I've actually used, which side is this? This is the left. I've actually used a little bit of liquid tape to get these to fit, because the next stage, so there we go, it just sits there nicely. The next thing I have to do is the strut. So I haven't done it for this side, and that's the pieces, the basic pieces there. The reason for that is the winch actually goes here above the door, and there's going to be quite a few extra pieces and reinforcement plates and wires that have to be done in here, so I'm going to do that at the same time with the winch. Whereas with the other side, I have completed the support strut, so there it is there. And I've also rescribed a few lines just to make it a bit betterer. And again, if you can see there, I've added, that's for this main one here, which I'll talk about in a minute, but these two, plus I need to add a third one because the one that Academy give is in the wrong location. Well, it's in the right location, but if it's wrong for the Reskit, because the Reskit part is not the right dimension. So that just sits in there like that, and then I've had to make this piece, I've had to modify the Academy one into, as you can see there, okay. So it's going to actually go, oh, I can't do this on camera, sorry, but it's going to go underneath in there, so that's all made up and done. And then with the, I had so many troubles with this third engine, and you can see what I've had to do. Okay, so I had to reshape this again because the Reskit, this air intake with the EAPS, the engine air particle separator bits, those little things, I'm learning the lingo, it doesn't actually fit behind there. The edge of it actually goes up against the nacelle, so you have to, whereas the Academy kit part fits in there perfectly. So anyway, I added these two struts at the top with a bit of brass wire, and I had to make those pieces there. That's just 0.7mm rod, and also I've got, if you can see here, I'll just get this liquid tape to come off. Oop, I lost a piece. So there's a support there, which you'll barely ever see, and then there's another one, so that goes in there like that. I won't do it because I'll probably stuff it up. Oh no, here we go. Okay, there we go. Okay. That took forever to do, but it's going to look good, I hope, in the finished product. So there it is with the support strut. I mean, there's more details to add. There's wires, there's other stuff, and you know, other super detailers can do that if they want. My emphasis, and that's what I'm moving to, and this is where I'm going to wrap it up now, is to do the stress skin on the fuselage. So that's my next job. Well, actually, no, it's not. My next job is to finish the rotor head. So I want to modify a few of the parts that I've put on because I've seen a couple other builds using this, and I really want to finish this, get that done, get out of the way, because that's one out of two major jobs, the other one being of course the fuselage. And so once the stress skin is done, add the rivets, and also there's a few parts that have to be added. There's a lot to do, but again, the philosophy is still going to be, I'm going to try to make it nicely detailed, but I'm not going for 100% accuracy, even though I absolutely love this reference book. Please go get it. This one from Cavu Publications is absolutely fantastic. You need it, you need it, you need it. My emphasis is going to be on the weathering and the stress skin, okay? And getting all those details right. But the Academy kit is still lacking quite a bit of detail, so there we have it. All right, I need to have a stiff drink because that took me all weekend just to do those intakes, and I'm pretty happy with them. And yeah, so until next time, the next one will be part 2 of the rotor blade, and then gonna cut this fella up. Yeah. See ya.